Hello everyone, and welcome to the North Texas Giving Day Social Media Workshop. My name is Corinne Manning, and I am the North Texas Giving Day Marketing and Communications Manager. Today, we will be joined by Caitlin Mitchell and Elizabeth Weinstein of the Richards Group, who will share social media best practices to help you execute a successful North Texas Giving Day campaign. Today, we will be sharing everything you need to know about how to execute a successful social media campaign. First, I will share some key analytics from last year's North Texas Giving Day and what insights we learned from this data. I'll also highlight a handful of nonprofits whose 2019 North Texas Giving Day and North Texas Giving Tuesday Now campaigns were effective and engaging. Then Caitlin and Elizabeth from the Richards Group will share their expertise on the current landscape and trends of effective social media strategy. So let's get started. To begin, here is where you can find North Texas Giving Day on social media. We are North Texas Giving Day on Facebook, and our handles on both Instagram and Twitter are at NTX Giving Day. And just in case you haven't done this already, please like and follow our pages. Our official hashtag is NTX Giving Day. Using this hashtag in your posts allows us and others to find your North Texas Giving Day content. Now we'd like to share with you a brief overview of the analytics and trends from North Texas Giving Day 2019. For this data, we analyzed social media activity and performance from the beginning of registration opening all the way through the day of North Texas Giving Day 2019. Of all the channels that led people to NorthTexasGivingDay.org, social media was the second largest referrer to our site. The only channel that performed better than social media was direct, which is where a user has a direct link that they click to go directly to the North Texas Giving Day site. This makes sense to us because nonprofits share their direct URL to their donors to get directly to their profile page. Since 2018, social media site referrals have increased by 6.5%, and the margin between direct referrals and social media referrals has shrunk from 18% to 0.9% since 2018, indicating that social media referrals are continuing to grow as a way to get users onto the North Texas Giving Day site. Of social media referrals, Facebook accounted for 92%, followed by Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Despite the large gap between Facebook and these other social networks, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, these referrals continue to increase each year, so it is important to consider and integrate them into your overall social media strategy. From May to September 2019, we analyzed the performance of North Texas Giving Day social media channels. There were a total of 1.6 million Facebook impressions, with over 1 million of these occurring during scheduled giving and the day of North Texas Giving Day alone. Twitter and Instagram also performed well, with a combined total of 625,000 impressions. We leverage our significant exposure to our audience through elevating the visibility of North Texas Giving Day nonprofits on our social media platforms. On NorthTexasGivingDay.org, there were over 575,000 sessions, which is the entire actions of a single user on the site from when they open the page to when they close it. This was a 36% increase since 2018. Each session lasted on average of about 5 minutes. And after the home page, the nonprofit search page and the donation page, confirmation page were the most viewed pages on the site. And of all gifts made, 66% were made on a smartphone or a tablet, highlighting the importance of creating compelling social media campaigns to encourage donors to head to your profile page from a engaging post on one of your social media channels. The North Texas Giving Day team each year provides a wealth of resources, tools, and trainings to help you prepare and execute your North Texas Giving Day social media campaign. So where should you start? And it goes without saying if you are already preparing for a great North Texas Giving Day campaign by watching this training. At NorthTexasGivingDay.org/resources, you will find a library of ready-to-watch trainings, our nonprofit toolkit, our marketing toolkit, logos, graphics, and more. This resource page is your go-to for everything you need for your North Texas Giving Day campaign. I mentioned our training, so I'd like to share our upcoming training schedule with you. Our next training is the Take 15 Graphic Design Basics and Editing training, which will premiere next Tuesday, July 14th at 2 p.m. on the North Texas Giving Day Facebook page. This training will help equip you with the basic concepts of graphic design and its purpose in helping your organization promote your mission and needs effectively, including how to create appealing social media graphics. You can find information on northtexasgivingday.org by clicking key dates under For Nonprofits on the homepage. And here is where you can find the resources page. On the homepage of northtexasgivingday.org, hover over For Nonprofits and then click Resources. This year, we have expanded our social media toolkit to be a full-fledged nonprofit marketing toolkit. Not only will you get everything you need to execute a successful North Texas Giving Day social media campaign, but this toolkit also provides sample communications calendars, email and direct mail best practices, and customizable email and direct mail templates. This toolkit can be downloaded right now on the resources page. You can also add a North Texas Giving Day profile frame to your Facebook profile picture. These frames are a great way to spread the word about North Texas Giving Day to your social network. To add a Facebook frame, go to your profile and tap your profile picture. Tap Add Frame and then search North Texas Giving Day Frame 2020 and select the frame to apply it. This year, we will be holding a special social media contest for our participating nonprofits. Each week, we will feature a lucky nonprofit story on our own profiles on Instagram and Facebook. Your story may include up to 5 slides and must tell the story of your nonprofit's mission and needs and how these relate to your 2020 campaign. You can use videos, graphics, text, whatever you like. Just get creative. Through this contest, we hope to provide nonprofits with additional exposure and awareness to our social media followers. More details, including submission requirements and deadlines, will be provided in an upcoming nonprofit e-newsletter. And if you aren't subscribed to our nonprofit e-newsletter already, please send us an email at northtexasgivingday@cftexas.org, and we will make sure that you get added to the list. Each year, we offer many prizes to nonprofits, and several of these prizes are marketing-based. Using these trainings, tools, and resources available, you can execute a great social media campaign that could help you win a prize for your nonprofit. Check out the prizes page on our site throughout the summer to learn more about these prizes. Through using the supplied branded graphics and assets in your own campaign, you can tap the power of the North Texas Giving Day brand. The goal of our brand is to bring North Texans together on a single day to build a stronger and more vibrant community. Through using these resources, you increase recall and buy-in from your supporters and help North Texas Giving Day grow. So be sure to incorporate the supplied templates, logos, and graphics into your own social media campaigns. Also, don't forget to use our hashtag, share our social post, and utilize social media profile frames. So in this portion of the training, you will see some examples of nonprofit social media campaigns from North Texas Giving Day 2019 and North Texas Giving Tuesday Now. These nonprofits incorporated the branding and messaging of North Texas Giving Day into their own campaigns, while also customizing their campaigns to make them unique to their organization's needs and goals. So 2019 was Rosa S. Rojo's first year participating in North Texas Giving Day. Their goal was to raise $12,000 and promote their community wellness program they call the Rojo Way. Their social media campaign was bilingual and included social media, email, mobile, and in-person events. To effectively target in their social media campaign, Rosa S. Rojo segmented their audiences into 3 groups. These included Hispanic donors and current program participants, non-Hispanic donors, and corporations. One integral aspect of their campaign messaging was specific donation asks that included what each donation could make possible for their organization, as seen by the example at the bottom of this slide. Rosa S. Rojo states that it was important to them to make sure that their donors understood that a donation in any amount would be important to their organization. In addition to their strategic messaging, they created a video that featured program participants, board members, and community partners. They also hosted Facebook Lives on North Texas Giving Day itself. They state that they were able to reaffirm the importance of being visible via social media And they say that as an organization with limited marketing budget and staff, we took advantage of our social media tools using mainly organic posts and just a couple of targeted boosted posts, our social media ambassadors support, influencer reinforcements, North Texas Giving Day branded images and quotes, and the North Texas Giving Day toolkits. Next, we'd like to share a campaign that a nonprofit executed for North Texas Giving Tuesday Now this past May. Union realized that they had limited time and staff resources to prepare for this emergency campaign, so they identified two major goals that they wanted to accomplish in a short time frame. The first, to promote and raise awareness of their organization during this unprecedented time, and two, to activate their supporters. Union typically plans their social media campaigns for North Texas Giving Day 4 to 6 months in advance, so it is imperative that they were adept in executing a strategy that would help them raise funds on short notice. As a result, Union concepted a socially distant telethon to raise awareness and increase support for their organization. They collected performances from their community members in hopes that their key supporters would be aware of North Texas Giving Tuesday Now and share and spread the word with their networks to encourage donations. They promoted the telethon on their social media channels in advance, and the telethon was held on Facebook Live the day prior to North Texas Giving Tuesday Now. Union states that the day of North Texas Giving Tuesday Now, they employed many of the same tactics that they use on North Texas Giving Day in their social media campaigns. Their campaign brought attention to Union's ongoing work in the community and their need for financial assistance. The telethon received nearly 1,000 views, and Union exceeded their goal of raising $30,000 through 100 donors. Union's adaptability to fundraise remotely during these unprecedented times was a major factor in their campaign's success. By creating a virtual telethon hosted on Facebook Live that featured performances from community members and stories of support from others, they were able to reach a wide audience and raise support they needed to continue their operations. For North Texas Giving Day 2019, Grant Halliburton Foundation created a multi-platform campaign centered on the theme of There's No Place Like Hope. The core of the campaign featured a 5-part video series based on The Wizard of Oz, which was written, directed, and produced by their creative team. The video series follows Dorothy, a struggling teen, on her journey to find hope and peace of mind. Grant Halliburton Foundation used both puppets and actors in their video series. Their campaign utilized a comprehensive social media campaign across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and a dedicated North Texas Giving Day landing page on their website, as well as coordinated direct mail pieces. Each facet of their campaign had consistent branding and messaging and employed the North Texas Giving Day hashtag to be a part of the conversation on social networks. They also created their own hashtag for this campaign, hashtag There's No Place Like Hope. One particularly innovative strategy of their social media campaign was that they had the Dorothy puppet do an Instagram takeover on the day of North Texas Giving Day itself. Because of their comprehensive campaign, they experienced positive impact on their social channels. For instance, their top video on Facebook received more than 3,500 views, with an average of 1,800 views per video. Post reach increased 224%, page views increased 56%, and their social media content reached more than 34,000 viewers. Overall, their thoughtfully crafted video series and coordinated social media posts helped Grant Halliburton Foundation to raise a record fundraising amount and increase their social media presence and impact. To Be Like Me was a new nonprofit in 2019, and so the focus of their North Texas Giving Day social media campaign was mainly brand awareness, education, and building their social media following. To Be Like Me worked with a local graphic design firm to create distinct branding for their new organization that is reflected in their social media campaign. Their social media campaign strategies included awareness videos in advance of North Texas Giving Day that conveyed the impact of financial support on their organization. They also created an event page for North Texas Giving Day and hosted a day of event with a Facebook Live broadcast. On this slide, you can see examples of their social media videos that promoted awareness, impact, and the reasons to give. Each video conveys a clear messaging, and everything is on brand to increase recall for this new organization. Because of their campaign, they significantly grew their Facebook followers from a few hundred to over 7,500. To Be Like Me notes that they had a small following since they were a new organization in 2019. They set a goal of raising $4,000 for their first North Texas Giving Day, but were thrilled to raise a total of $15,000. Overall, they state that they leveraged their social media campaign through North Texas Giving Day, and they were able to utilize a large platform to increase exposure of their organization to new audiences. Their strategically crafted plan included repeated clear messaging, consistent branding, event tie-ins, and the utilizations of tools such as Facebook Live to significantly increase their following and fundraising capacity. So now, given these examples of awesome campaigns from nonprofits large and small, new and established, I'd like to hand it over to Caitlin and Elizabeth from the Richards Group, who are going to provide you with expert insights and strategies to execute a stellar social media campaign for North Texas Giving Day.
Thanks, Corinne. Hello. As Corinne mentioned, I'm Caitlin Mitchell, and this is my colleague, Elizabeth Weinstein. We've worked together about 6 years at the Richards Group, and I would say at this point, we pretty much
read each other's minds.
Finish each other's sentences, that kind of a thing. We primarily work on Keurig Dr. Pepper at the Richards Group, but we are social strategy directors, and we're really excited to be here today to help all of the awesome organizations that are listening right now ensure that they have the best North Texas Giving Day possible.
And so today we have 2 things we'd really like to accomplish with all of you. First is, how do we make your organization stand out and make an impression by answering the question, how do I build a key message and ensure my content stands out on social media? Then secondly, we want to help your organizations develop a content plan around North Texas Giving Day so you can answer, how do I make the most out of social media? If we can do those 2 things today, then Caitlin and I have done our jobs. So let's jump in.
All right, so we're first going to start with standing out and making an impression in social media. And I think naturally as humans, we want to do this. And of course, as organizations, especially for North Texas Giving Day, we want to do that. And one thing that you have to keep in mind that I think is a little unique and kind of hard to wrap your brain around at first is that impressions, or the people that see your content when you log on and scroll through the feed, they aren't guaranteed on social media. So there's typically algorithms that sort what you see. Organic reach is close to 1% to 3% these days. So whenever you push a piece of content out, it's not guaranteed that it's seen if there's not paid behind it. And it's really important to remember that social media is skippable. So when you think about just as a user, when you have your phone out and you're scrolling on by, it's really easy to miss a friend's post, an ad. Sometimes you might not even remember what the message or who it was from. And when we think about YouTube, we all love that skip button. I mean, raise your hand if you love the skip button. I do. I know that Elizabeth does. It's just kind of natural that we like to skip ads, so it becomes really important that we want our content to stand out so it won't be skippable. And this can be challenging.
It's really crazy to think that all of our effort and time goes into creating content that ultimately can be ignored. And while that can be discouraging, there are ways that we can create social content that helps make it a little bit less skippable on the feed. And the way to do that is really through best practices that can ensure your content has a better chance of being seen. So this includes things like having a brand identity in the first 3 seconds. So if someone only watches for a few seconds, they know who the message is coming from, or focusing on one key message. So if you could only say one thing, what is that message you'd want to get across? And there's a whole list of these different best practices that you can consider. And we won't go through all of these right now, but we'll leave them up here for you to spend some time with it. But ultimately, when we think about best practices, we like to tell our creative teams especially that these aren't mandatory rules that you have to follow.
Especially our creative teams. You don't want to put them in a box.
No rules. But what they are guidelines that you can consider and keep in mind when you're developing your creative to give it a better chance at being seen and making it a little bit less skippable. And as in many cases, there are definitely moments where you can break the rules for the sake of creativity and have a little bit more fun with it.
And we definitely encourage that, and best practices are really important guidelines to follow. But there is something that best practices just can't do, and that is social best practices can't ensure that your content will matter. Because of how the algorithm works, because of that skippable nature, because of just how we are as humans, you can't ensure that your content will be seen. So we can pull in best practices to have a better shot, or you can develop an ownable brand moment. And we really think this is the recipe to success when developing a campaign or an ownable brand moment. And there's a couple of things you have to do to get there. So we start with the world. We want to look at what the landscape is, what's happening in the world. We then want to look at your target and understand them, make sure, we have a deep understanding of who that person or multiple people are. And then you really need to know your brand. And there in the middle, that is your sweet spot. That is your ownable brand moment. That's your idea. That is your unique campaign that we want all of you awesome organizations to create for North Texas Giving Day this year. And to kick it off, let's start with going through the world and how we really identify and evaluate what's going on for how we put content out into the world. And we start with understanding how your content fits into the current landscape. So when you think about your content that you've created going into the feed, what's it going to be showing up next to? What's trending that day? It's important that you keep in mind what's out there and what's the best time to schedule depending on what's going on. You don't just want to blindly put content out into the world and not be very aware of what's trending and what's going on. So if we think about the world today, I think everyone is very well aware we are in the middle of a pandemic, right? We're all wearing masks, we're staying apart, and this is taking up a lot of time and attention in the feed, as it should, and it's a very heavy and important topic. We're seeing right now all of the states look different, and this is really unique, especially in the marketing landscape, because state by state, things are different, and we need to approach that as such. For North Texas Giving Day, we're talking to one specific area, so we don't necessarily need to worry about other states, but we do need to worry about what's going on in Texas, and especially North Texas. We have unemployment numbers continuing to come through. There's a lot of devastation happening with individuals, with families. There's a lot of worry that's out there in the world right now. We have a lot of societal issues going on that I'm sure everyone is very well aware of. And these are very, very important societal issues that deserve the time and the attention in the feed. And we need to pay attention to what is going on. We have, of course, protests, we have riots. There's just a lot happening right now. When you look at Texas, right now, currently, coronavirus cases are spiking, hospitalizations are spiking, and this is something that we're going to have to keep in mind as we move towards developing your campaign for North Texas Giving Day and ultimately September 17th. We also have, of course, social media training. It wouldn't be a training if we didn't talk about Mark Zuckerberg. This is recent news. He's projected to lose $7 billion from brands boycotting Facebook ads for the month of July as a push to get Facebook to make some changes to the platform. So organizations are really pushing for that, and brands are joining in and not posting in the month of July. And then, of course, how could we forget, there's an election that is coming up in November, and we're already seeing feeds really consumed with all of that content. But when you think about where North Texas Giving Day lands this year on September 17th, there is going to be a ton of election coverage within the feeds where we'll be placing different content and ads for North Texas Giving Day. So all of this we really need to keep in mind and make sure that that is on the forefront when developing content and when pushing it out into the feed. Last year, I would have told you a little bit of a different story. So last year, I would have told you were competing with babies and puppies. And of course, there's still that content out there and we're seeing it. But you can definitely see the algorithms prioritizing heavy, important content that people are very much so paying attention to over sometimes babies and puppies right now.
And so we came across this quote that we think sums up the current situation really well. As the country deals with ever greater personal loss and stress, charitable organizations can no longer do business as usual. The line between supporters and the supported will grow ever hazier. So I think all of us today have been impacted in some way by what's going on in the world, and it's affecting how we go about our fundraising efforts. So we wanted to break that down a little bit and start first with the individual donors. We saw in our research that 68% of total giving in the US is from individuals. So that means that nonprofits are relying really heavily on these individual gifts to sustain their operations and different programs they have to offer. And while we can't speak for all nonprofits out there, our research showed us that about 25% of nonprofits don't have more than 6 months worth of cash in reserve. So if we think about the coming of a pandemic and a recession in the same year, a lot of these organizations aren't equipped to survive several months out without getting those continuous donations. And then without that support, it's really hard for them to keep continuing to provide the high demand for their different communities that rely on them. So if we think about the current year, how do we need to adapt when individual donations are down, funds are down, but our communities have never needed our organizations more? So we want to first start with those last 2 points as we break this down. As we mentioned, nonprofits are in really high demand, but they need funds. We are seeing a significant increase in client usage of nonprofit services, both right now and anticipating for later in 2020. But yet, they are seeing a significant decrease in donations and the funding that they need to maintain their current programs and keep them going forward. So as we think about this, what's really interesting is this isn't just related to the relief efforts that are needed right now. This really is being seen across a wide variety of nonprofits. So if you think about museums that have been closed for months, and yet the community is expecting them to be able to turn back on their programs, their services, when we return to some version of normal. So overall, we are seeing that these organizations are really needing funds, and that really starts, like we said, with those individual donors. But before we talk about the donors, we need to understand the realities of the situation that we're in today and how that's impacting them. If you think about it, donors' pockets, times, and attention are stretched really, really thin right now. Many Americans are really stressed about their personal finances. Their entire everyday routines have just been uprooted as many are working from home and dealing with different living situations like having many children out of schools and camps and spending more time in the home. And then lastly, as Caitlin mentioned, there is a lot going on in the world right now, and that's causing a lot of their attention to go towards a wide variety of different trending topics and news sources. So as we think about crafting that ownable brand moment, we need to keep in mind how do we be flexible and really understanding of today's donors and the realities that they're in.
Now we want to move on to talking about your target. Now that we have a good view at what's going on in the world, we want to kind of dial in a little bit more to your specific target for North Texas Giving Day. And the first thing that we start with that we've alluded to a little bit is your target decides what matters in social media. So I know as brands and as organizations, we would love to think that when we create a piece of content and push it out on social media, it's going to go viral and everyone's going to see it. But that isn't the case. It's really people deciding what matters in social media, typically around these topics and the things that they care about. And we have to keep that in mind. And I think a good rule of thumb that we use a lot when developing content and working with our creative teams is all about your target audience really being the teacher and you are the student. So how can you really take a step back and think about your target? Think about how they're leveraging social media. Think about the different things that they care about, where their affinities are, and think through what you can truly learn from the target to apply it to how you develop your campaign idea or your ownable brand moment. And two targets that we want to start with that we need to really be mindful of the message that we put out. There's two of them. So one, you have your existing donor base, and then you have your new donor base. Both are very, very important. And when we think about your existing donor base, a positive side here that we can think through is they likely know, hopefully, if they're donating to you, they know your organization. They know your visual identity. They know your mission. They're probably very familiar with what your organization stands for. And so when thinking about how we kind of lean in to leveraging existing donors, especially for this year's North Texas Giving Day, many existing donors are used to in-person events. They're used to prior to North Texas Giving Day, maybe the day of, or even after, having these events where we all come together and we're fundraising, and maybe they bring in new donors. But regardless, we're all used to these in-person events. So this year, we have a challenge with North Texas Giving Day as every organization is listening to really move these in-person events to online and to social. So whether you're leveraging Facebook Live or recording events or, kind of finding a new way to kind of get social interaction to make your event happen, it's really important that you're leveraging these social and digital tactics to engage your existing donors. And then also, I think it's nice to think of them, and we talk about this a lot, think about your fans or your existing donors as truly a marketing channel. So that peer-to-peer advocacy, how they can influence their inner circle within their social channels is going to be really important. And of course, we have the fundraising pages that you were able to create last year. That is back again this year, and you can challenge your existing donor base to help fundraise on behalf of your organization. And we really love the idea of really leaning into that peer-to-peer advocacy for your existing donors. And then secondly, like I spoke of earlier, you also have your new donor base, which can be a little tricky, especially for this year, as people, again, are going through a lot like we talked about. So, donating to a new organization might be a little bit of a challenge this year. But when we think about pulling in the new donor base, think about the different mindsets that might exist. So this first one, maybe a question that they have, believe it or not, is what is North Texas Giving Day? We are the largest community giving day in the nation, but think through if there are people that don't know what North Texas Giving Day is, how can we increase their awareness of North Texas Giving Day and show them that it's a great reason to get involved with a local nonprofit right now. And it really gives a sense of urgency and reason for a new donor to jump in and want to give. There also might be another mindset, and this one might be a little bit more likely. Maybe someone is very familiar with North Texas Giving Day. They've heard all about it. They know that, we've broken records every year. But maybe they're thinking, what cause should I support? There are a lot of nonprofits, a lot of organizations that I'm sure are listening right now. And I think people kind of need to think through which nonprofit and which cause, do they want to support? So for the content that we create as different organizations, we really need to focus on how can we educate people about why your nonprofit's cause is worthy of their attention. And beyond the cause, your specific nonprofit too. That's going to be a really important part of pulling new donors in. And then the last mindset that I think is also very likely that we need to think through is the question of which nonprofit best supports my passion. So this is where you can lean a little bit more into maybe someone is already passionate about a general cause. Maybe they're really passionate about animals, but maybe they haven't decided which specific nonprofit they want to give to. So you can listen for this within social media. You can go through social media and see which causes are being talked about and jump in and develop relationships with people who are passionate about your cause. That's kind of the power of social media, is it's connected people around passion points. And definitely for especially this year, I think it's going to be really important to lean even heavier into your community management efforts of finding potential new donors who already have a passion. And then another key point that we both feel very strongly about is, yes, North Texas Giving Day is absolutely about donations. We want to raise as much money as we possibly can for all of you awesome organizations. But I do think it's important to keep in mind that this year it is a little bit different, and this year is going to be a challenge because of where the world is at, because of where the target is at. And I think it's really important, if you don't get a donation, but you have a new donor who's potentially interested in your organization, or maybe they want to volunteer time, that should absolutely be a KPI that we should lean into and that we should focus on. Because when you think about the funnel, if you're able to pull in new donors who are just interested, who want to volunteer time, you can eventually potentially convert them to actually being a donor and giving money. So we definitely think donations, interest, volunteer time, big KPIs that we need to really zero in on this year.
And then the last piece here is your brand. So that's figuring out how do you communicate your message and connect with your audience through social content. And when we think about social content, we really need to be mindful of what people need right now. So if you look at the social media feed, there's a few different categories that seem to be popping out right now. these first two categories here are a little bit more around providing utility. So people are turning to social media to find accurate and reliable information, or they're reaching out for customer service and support, which is especially key right now when people aren't going in stores and they're relying on social media to connect with these different touch points. The third one here is distraction and levity, and that's one that's always been around. Social media has always been a place where you can go and escape the day-to-day and have some fun and remove yourself from what you're doing in the real world. And then this last one here, community and positivity, this is the one that we think is a really rich territory for nonprofits to consider, especially for the upcoming North Texas Giving Day. And not only do we think that, but we actually have science to back that up. So research has found many examples of how doing good in ways big or small not only feels good, but also does us good. Neural evidence from fMRI studies suggesting a link between generosity and happiness in the brain. So psychologists have found that there's actually this link between doing good and feeling better. It creates a sense of belonging, and it also actually can boost your happiness. So engaging with nonprofits is a key thing that our communities really need right now. And so as we think about this upcoming North Texas Giving Day, we think it's really all about hope, positivity, and community. And what's great is that we think these three words really are at the heart of what all of you all do. So it's already a great starting point as you think about that ownable brand moment and what your message should be. But one thing you do want to keep in mind is that probably everybody listening today also embodies these same three words. So what you need to do is use this as a starting place, but figure out what is your ownable and unique way to expressing that message. And to do that, we think it starts by really knowing your brand, and we've got a few different tactics to help you do that and really differentiate yourself. The first one here is developing a strong visual identity that works in social media and communicates what your brand is all about. As we've mentioned a lot today, the social media space is very visual. A lot of times people are scrolling through and it's a really strong visual that makes someone pop and stay and pay attention to what your message is. So we think using your visual identity to distinguish your brand and your message is a great first point to consider when looking at your content. The second thing is to establish a unique voice for your brand and explore executions that bring your voice to life. So if you think about social media, the heart of it is really people talking to other people. It's conversations. So as you start to craft your own voice, think about how you use that to humanize your nonprofit and bring some personable interactions and authenticity to how you engage with donors and potential and current donors. And then what you can do from there is create a playbook for your organization that helps make sure you bring that consistent voice to life across all your different touch points.
And really dig into that. Think through your emojis that you're using, hashtags. I think it's a really good exercise to get stakeholders in the room and debate words and ensure that everyone in the room really knows what those words mean and how you embody them and how they come to life. I think we've had a lot of success with do's and don'ts within a playbook that really visualize how your nonprofit's voice could come to life.
Absolutely. And then to that last point there, that's exploring your beliefs and values as a brand to help prioritize and assist with your marketing calendar. So if you look at the entire year, there are a variety of different moments and topics you can jump in on. Even a single week, there are multiple different ways you can jump in on a topic. And I think starting with your beliefs and values can help identify what are the right moments to participate in. And even more importantly, how does your organization participate in it? What is your voice? What is your visual identity that you bring into that moment?
And one thing to say on the beliefs and values that I think we see a lot is we see a lot of brands kind of going after, it's national.
Take your cat for a walk day.
That's I haven't heard that one.
That's there.
But yeah, if it's National Take Your Cat for a Walk Day, you see just all of these organizations that have nothing to do with cats jumping in on the trend just because it's the national day. And what we like to talk about is don't do real time, do right time moments. And this again is looking at those three circles and really strategically identifying if there is a national day, if there's a holiday, if there's something going on, does it strategically align to your brand and how can you talk about it in a way that is unique? You don't just want to add noise or just talk on social media. I think we see a lot of times brands kind of have this urge to just want to post every single day. And again, you got to put yourself in the user's perspective. No one's logging on and, I can't wait to see, to be honest, I'm not logging on every day saying, I can't wait to see what Elizabeth posted.
I wait to see what you post.
But if I see something from her, I'm obviously going to be, excited that I see it. But again, the algorithms are deciding that. So it's really important that you're strategically aligning to beliefs, values, and that of course includes everything that you outline for your marketing calendar. And it can be a bigger issues and things that are beyond national days, which Elizabeth will chat about.
So one question we have definitely gotten a lot lately is, should we speak to the current climate? And we think to address that question, you really have to first answer it internally and start with your own internal team to figure out how your organizations should act. And we think the first step here is really taking the mindset of actions speak louder than words. And to do that, you really need to make it a priority to sit down with your leadership team, discuss where do you stand, what is your role, how do you want to interact in these different topics that are trending or relevant to society right now. And I think when you come together and figure that out, one important thing to keep in mind is it can be a statement to say something or not to say something. So that is a decision you need to make, whether you're going to say something and take a stance or maybe go quietly and not say something in that moment. And then if you do decide to speak up, it's really important to provide meaningful commentary and really lay out actionable ways that you're going to participate in that topic. So as Caitlin mentioned, there really is a lot of clutter out there. There's a lot of people talking about every single subject. And I think for when your organization steps in and wants to participate, provide a really unique perspective and way that you're specifically going to jump in and provide some impact there.
And now I'm going to share a case study that the Richards Group actually worked on with Dallas Children's Advocacy Center. And I think the CMO there, Sarah, says this a lot, and I think it's a really good quote I hear her say a lot. But she talks a lot about North Texas Giving Day shouldn't be the time to build your brand. I mean, you really should be building your brand before, during, and after. North Texas Giving Day is a really good time for a tentpole moment for a campaign to take off, but it can really extend. And I think that's something that we're really trying to hit hard this year, is showing you that all the time and effort that you put into developing a campaign for North Texas Giving Day, let it live and let it extend. And a really good case study of this is Dallas Children's Advocacy Center. So again, kind of taking those three circles of the world, the target, your brand, we really looked at all of that, and we came up with a campaign called Save Jane. And Save Jane really speaks to the truth about Dallas Children's Advocacy Center, which is child abuse is very uncomfortable to talk about. It's a very heavy topic, and some people feel uncomfortable talking about it, and there's a lot of legal restrictions on what Dallas Children's Advocacy Center does. They help a lot of underage children. You do not release the victims' names. So if you're in Dallas Children's Advocacy Center's shoes, you definitely want to create an emotional connection to their awesome organization, but you have to do it with a lot of guidelines around how you communicate about what they do. And so we came up with this campaign, Save Jane, and the first thing that I'll show you about it is we really made sure that it was this recognizable movement. And when we talked about the visuals and the voice, you can see within these creative executions across the board, they all kind of cohesively tie together and they stand out. So the idea for Save Jane was that because we cannot name the victims' names, we wanted to put a name and a face to child abuse. So Save Jane or Save John Doe. And the idea was to put children with black bars over their faces, so you would be able to kind of emotionally connect to a child that has been abused. And Save Jane is really a call to action. It has a lot of momentum behind it to jump in and get involved with Dallas Children's Advocacy Center, and they every single day are fighting for Jane or John Doe. So last year, a campaign that they did with the Richards Group that was very successful was held at Clyde Warren Park. The basic premise of it was we read over 27,000 names at Clyde Warren Park in a day, and we had all kinds of participants, from existing donors, new donors, influencers, city officials, but they would read names. And they would read Jane Doe or John Doe and the age of the child that was abused. And you could see, the emotional reaction when people would get up there and read the names, how impactful it was to them. And of course, we taped all of this, this event and everything that went on, and we used it within our social assets to reach new donors or those that weren't able to attend the event. We had a lot of awesome PR from Westfall PR, where they jumped in and tried to echo our message and reach new donors. But all of this really involved the city with the call to action, Save Jane. And the ecosystem was pretty large. So you can see across the board, the visuals are really consistent, but there was social discussion, there was an event, there was social, there was digital, there was magazine, there's radio. And again, if this were to happen again this year, could a physical event be possible? Probably not, but this idea could definitely go into the virtual space, and very well might this year. And we also extended Save Jane. So again, in talking through a campaign not just being one moment, here you can see for North Texas Giving Day Now that we did for Tuesday not too long ago, they extended this. They still use that visual identity. They talked about raising money specifically for Jane or John Doe. And you can see how this ownable brand moment or campaign idea can really extend and can have a long shelf life. And I think as all of us putting our hearts and souls into all of these awesome causes that you organizations represent, I think it's really important to think quality over quantity and how you can take a big idea and extend it and use it for a long time. This campaign has been very well received. It recently won a National Addy Award, but we think it's a great example to show you how we really kind of figured out the world, the target, really dug into Dallas Children's Advocacy Center, and we found a campaign idea in that sweet spot in Save Jane. Next, we're going to move on to developing a content plan. We want to make sure that we give you guys really actionable phases and recommendations for how you can develop your ownable brand moment for North Texas Giving Day.
And at the start of developing a content plan, we want to start with our philosophy of fewer, bigger, better. There are a million different pieces of content you can create, several different social channels. There is a lot of options when it comes to the social and digital space. So our fewer, bigger, better philosophy helps to narrow that down and figure out the best way and where to hone in. And that first starts with fewer. So how can you focus your efforts and win with consistency? Like I said, there's a lot of different options out there. So how do we simplify what we're doing so we can get away from things like fragmented messages and content, splice and dice media plans, and too many channels and KPIs? Let's try not to do too much. Let's just do what we need to do to make an impact. From there, let's focus on bigger. So create content that can scale to the masses. Harness dollars to feel big at the right time. Drive that meaningful reach and frequency, and prioritize programs and messages. I think that last point there is really important. Like I said, there's a lot of different messages you can put out there, but let's do fewer of them so we can do them in a much bigger way and prioritize what we want to put out into the world and share on our social media channels. And then lastly is better, which is my favorite part of all of this. I love the data component that comes with social media. It's really great that when you put something out there in the world, you get immediate feedback. You see how people are reacting to it. Is it driving donations? Is it not driving donations? Did they like that video? Did they not? And you can take all those different learnings to really enhance your efforts and move what you're doing forward and treat that like a feedback loop. So take that data, learn from it, and enhance the different things that you're doing to make it better. So overall, this philosophy of fewer, bigger, better helps us hone in on the right moments, do them in a bigger way, and learn from them to make them even better. And as I mentioned with the fewer, bigger, better strategy,
that's a lot of channels.
That is a lot of social media channels, and it seems to be growing all the time. We don't even have all of them up there right now. So these are just a few of the different options that are out there, and that can be really overwhelming to feel like you need to be in every single place with different content and posting every single day. I will go ahead and say that that is all not true. None of what I said is true.
Don't do it.
You don't need to do all of that. And instead, we have a strategy called 70-20-10 that we think helps to prioritize this a little bit. So the way that this works, the 70%, that's your easy decision making. View that as your tried and true tactics that you know are going to work. You do them all the time and they've proven to be successful. So maybe in this case for a lot of you all, that's email and Facebook. They're things you've done for a while and they've worked really well for your organization. Then as we move down to the 20%, those are things that maybe you've tested before in the past, or you have a strong hypothesis that this new tactic is going to work and drive some results. So those are things that you're just testing and you're learning from to maybe eventually become part of your 70%. And then lastly is 10%, which I think is one of the more important ones when it comes to social and digital media. Our landscape is changing every single day. There is always going to be something new to try. And as we said on the last slide, it doesn't mean you try every single new thing that comes out, but be really smart. Figure out what is that one thing in your 10% that you want to try that's different this year. There's no guaranteed outcome it's going to work. You really don't know, but it's a great way to start and try new things as they happen. Take a small risk, see what can come from maybe trying a new channel or a new piece of content. And as you continue to learn from that, it becomes part of your 20 and hopefully one day part of your 70%. And so from there, as we go back to the slide of several different social media channels, for the sake of today, Caitlin and I have decided to really focus in on Facebook and Instagram and the stories placement that run across both of those.
Yeah, you're definitely going to maximize the resources that you have and really be able to focus if you really focus on these 3 channels. And of course, if you want to test some things, I think TikTok is a really interesting one you could potentially test in your 10%. I wouldn't put all your eggs in that basket, but certainly, especially while in lockdown and during this pandemic, it has grown tremendously. And that could potentially be a really interesting channel to reach younger new donors. So moving on to the actual content plan of how you'll kind of schedule all of this out. As you are very well aware, North Texas Giving Day is on September 17th this year. And one thing that we really want to hit home today, and we've talked about it a little bit, but make sure that you're using social media before, during, and after North Texas Giving Day. Again, any ownable brand moment campaign idea that you come with should be able to expand during, before the time period, after it, during it, so you really can make the most of it. And so these are kind of the key phases that we've identified to focus on for crafting your content. And I'll start by going through each of them individually. So the first one, so this is very important both for existing donors and new donors who maybe don't know what North Texas Giving Day is, but make sure you're sending out a save the date. Announce that your organization is participating in North Texas Giving Day to drive awareness for the day and for your organization. And we've given you a lot of different profile frames, cover photos, email signature, website, different things you can put on your website that for digital signage that you can leverage. And you'll see here on this screen, you will find this on the resource page on North Texas Giving Day's website. But leverage this. Make sure that all of your employees and existing donors are using these tools and these assets that are out there to make sure everyone will not miss that North Texas Giving Day is on the 17th, and the community needs you now more than ever before is really the message for the Save the Date that you could really hone in on. The next phase that we would recommend that you would go into is really more for existing donors. So earlier we mentioned that for existing donors, really think of them like a marketing channel. Tap into them to encourage peer-to-peer advocacy. We do still have the fundraising pages and scheduling donations that you can do. Also on your own channels, use current donors and share their stories to inspire people. You can do that on your own channels. You could have donors do that, but this is really just leveraging your existing donors as a marketing channel to advocate on your behalf. And there definitely should be a time period where you are dedicated to this. Next, what we've talked about a lot, so your ownable moment, your campaign idea, your big idea that that you've come up with your organization. There definitely needs to be a period of time where you have a launch moment and then you sustain that. And again, it needs to be really unique to your nonprofit to stand out. We definitely recommend, especially with where the world is at this year, really leveraging social and digital tactics and channels and the different tools that are on each channel to inspire new donors and then get existing donors involved in what you're doing. And again, Save Jane, I think, is a really good example of how that roadmap looks like. And think about topics like education about your mission, connection to passion points, how a donation can help your organization, what future plans you have. Really get people involved in what your mission is, what your future plans are, and be really honest and transparent with them about what you need, especially during this time frame. Elizabeth went through a lot of great stats, and I think a lot of really true anecdotes about just where we're at in the world, and that that line is becoming really blurry between the those who need support and the supported, and the community really needs nonprofits now more than ever.
And I think the nonprofits need the community too. It's really just they're working together, and I think this is such a rich time for us to all come together and really build a community and again tap into hope and positivity.
All right, the next phase that we want to talk about is early giving. So this is new this year. So it'll take place between September 1st to the 16th. You can find more information about this on the FAQ page for North Texas Giving Day. But essentially what this does is donors will be able to make real-time gifts that you'll actually be able to see. You will not have to wait for the day of, which I think is a really interesting kind of instant gratification component that you can leverage for people to inspire them to hit milestones and keep going. So be sure that you're leveraging email and social to communicate this with donors, but also leverage it on your own channels and, establish milestones, establish goals, make the plan really clear for people to be able to jump in and participate. And then, of course, the day of coverage. This is very important, but will look a lot different this year because, of course, in-person events are not going to be a thing for some time. So the day of, make sure you're highlighting the day's activities and updates to drive donations, and get really creative with how you're replacing those in-person events and fundraising. So there's all kinds of things you could do, from surprising and delighting donors to spotlighting recent donors, to talk about meeting a goal, to encouraging donations in someone's name, as a way to honor, a birthday or an anniversary, or, if you think about all of these special occasions that a lot of people have either missed out on this year or didn't really fully get to experience, this could be a great way to really tap into that insight that we've seen across the board. But we think just because you can't do the day of coverage in person, there's a lot that you can do on digital and social to get really creative with it.
And you don't have to lose that energy and positivity that comes with it. You can all bring that to life in social media.
But the key part of that will, of course, be your voice. That's where, that playbook and that voice becomes really important, of how you display that energy to the social space. And then last but not least, the event recap is, of course, really important. So the day after North Texas Giving Day, make sure you're celebrating the impact that the community has made for your nonprofit. And I think oftentimes, you can kind of just get so caught up into the day, maybe the event becomes more of the celebration of the results the next day. I mean, you can get really creative with how you want to execute it, but here, just make sure that you're maintaining, relationships with new donors. Or maybe, again, you have potential donors that didn't donate, but they showed interest. They want to do volunteer time. They want to get engaged. Keep them engaged. Get these people in the funnel, and eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to convert them. But we definitely don't want you to miss those two really important KPIs of interest and volunteer time. Really bring them together so you can immerse them in your organization. And of course, consider ways, again, to extend your campaign idea, your ownable brand moment. It doesn't have to go away after North Texas Giving Day. How can it go on for a while? Really take that fewer, bigger, better mentality and, leverage the idea that your organization comes up with for a time to come. And now we're going to move on to, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this from last year, but some creative considerations and formats to leverage specifically across Facebook, Instagram, and the Stories format.
Great. So we have said it a lot today, but tell your story visually. We have said it. Social media is a very visual space, and videos are a really great way to especially tell your narrative, tell a little bit more about your organization and what you all do. But you need to keep in mind that 85% of video on Facebook is actually watched with the sound off. So figure out how can you create content and videos that don't rely on someone turning on the sound, or maybe even reading the copy to get the message. How can I communicate everything I need to within the visual, and then use audio and copy to just complement that?
And that really is huge. I will say we see a lot of brands, organizations, you name it, anyone who's creating content, spend a lot of time on a video with a script, and
it's beautiful.
And it's
great.
beautiful and it's awesome. But if people are listening with the sound off and the visual cues aren't doing the story justice, you completely miss the message. So I think that component is very important when planning content.
And the great thing about all of that is that it is very fixable. So the best way to address that is consider how you can use text or different graphics to help deliver or communicate your message. So I think this is just a screenshot from a video, but I think this is a really great example from Charity Water, where if I didn't read the copy, I didn't have the sound on, all throughout the video, they were sharing text overlays with different stats or facts about what they're doing, and even using a highlighter to highlight the most important things. So it really drew my eyes and attention into this video and made me pay attention to the thing they wanted me to pay attention to. Obviously, not everybody has maybe the resources to add this level of detail over their videos. So what's great is Facebook also has the option to add subtitles to put your scripts there. So if there is a really great VO or story you're trying to tell, you can also add that through subtitles. We do have one last point to consider here. If you are going to run this in a paid campaign, just make sure that your text on your very first frame or cover frame doesn't take up more than 20% of the visual, as Facebook might ding it in the feed and view it as lower priority. The second consideration we have is keep it simple. Like we said, people are scrolling really fast through their feeds. They're maybe not spending a lot of time with content. So how do I make sure that I capture their attention really quickly right up front and make sure I focus on short and really easy to digest content? What's a really simple way for me to say that one message? I think this is really important because people might not spend a lot of time with something. So like Caitlin said, I might have this great 60-second video. It's beautifully shot. But if someone only watches the first 2 seconds, do I know that it's from that organization? Do I know what your mission is? Do I know how I can help? So consider what message you want to put up front and make sure that it's really stoppable in the feed. I really like this example here. It's really simple from Girl Scouts, but I like it especially for North Texas Giving Day because the idea of an activity wheel is something you often get to do in person. You get to spin it, see which one it lands on, and it's really fun and interactive. But in a world where we're turning to social media, you can bring that same experience online. So this really simple asset, it would scroll through these different activities and someone would just screenshot it to figure out what activity to do for that day. So again, a really simple message, but it got me to stop and pay attention and spend a little bit more time with it. And then lastly, we wanted to add a consideration for stories. Stories are really growing on both Instagram and Facebook, and it's one of my favorite placements to consider because it really doesn't require a ton of production or resources to put stories together. It is a really great way for telling a narrative in a place where content doesn't have to be super polished. And an added bonus there is that it does work with sound on. So most people are watching stories with sound on, so consider how you can use audio to share your message and make it a little bit more engaging. And then on top of that, stories have a ton of native tools to make that content feel less ad-like, make it fun, make it engaging, and make it pop. So these are things like playing with different text overlays or ways of using different fonts and colors to have some fun there and bring that same personality and voice to life through those colors and different formats. It's also got stickers and GIFs, so just a lot of fun ways you can play with making your stories a little bit more engaging. And then you can even take it a step further to incorporate interactive elements. So Stories has created stickers like quizzes and things like that to make your stories more engaging and spend some more time with the viewer. And then as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be as polished. So you can consider things like user content or behind the scene moments that you can just go and shoot yourself and bring it into stories. And it fits really seamlessly with the look and feel of what content people are experiencing there. And then as Caitlin mentioned, a lot of these things are viewed on your phone. So as we're trying to capture someone's attention, they're quickly scrolling through, everything is skippable. One way to make that a little bit less skippable is maximize your real estate. So when I think about my phone, the more space I can take up with an asset, the better chance that someone will stop and pay attention to my message. So what we mean by that is when you're crafting your assets for social media, try and focus on 1x1 and 4x5 for in the feed because that really does take up more space. Your message isn't having to share the screen with any other message. Only yours is visible and less likely to be ignored. And then when it comes to stories, 9x16 is really the recommend there. It's really one of the few placements where you get to use the full vertical screen. It's a complete takeover of someone's phone. So really take advantage of that and play with that vertical space to get your message there. And then lastly, we've talked about a whole bunch of different content formats, and I think these are really important because you don't need to do just one or the other. I think they all work together to do different things and help bring that content plan that Caitlin took you through to bring that to life. So think about video for telling an engaging story, showing awareness, keeping someone hooked. Maybe a photo is just better for quick engagement, sharing just one message or one quick fact with them. Link and carousel are best when you're trying to drive someone off of Facebook or off of Instagram and to your site. So what message can I put in front of them to get them quickly to jump over and go take an action or spend more time elsewhere? And then lastly, stories. Those are really, they do a variety of different things. They're great for engagement. You can use multiple frames to tap through, create a narrative, drive different types of engagement, but also you can get someone to swipe up and go visit your site and take a next step there. And so lastly, what we have here, we will not take you through all the text on this slide. It is absolutely an eyesore.
Take hours.
Yes, absolutely. But what we wanted to provide for you all is a one-sheeter that has a bunch of best practices for paid social and just things to keep in mind regardless of what channel you create on. This is created for paid, but keep in mind that a lot of these can apply to organic as well and for whenever you're creating social content.
All right, we've made it to the end. Hopefully no one's tuned out, but if you have, it's okay. Just this slide is very important, and it's going to break down our key takeaways from this presentation. So 1, don't just think about the people who can contribute monetarily right now. So, like we talked about, there are other KPIs that we can keep in mind for especially this year, especially for pulling in new donors. Make sure you're keeping, interest, engagement, volunteer time. People interested in your nonprofit or organization is very important, and it should be just as important as donations. So make sure that you're really building connections with a broader audience to impact future donations and kind of getting people through the funnel. Secondly, our next key takeaway is all about crafting a message that is agile and flexible for today's landscape. So know the space, know when to pause, and be okay to pause. I think this is really big. So, you don't want to be the organization that puts out a piece of content and there's something happens on August 23rd, and something will happen on that date, but something happens that day and you were just adding noise to a cluttered space where really other important things were going on, and maybe you could have waited a day and your piece of content would have had more impact. So be okay with pausing, and also adapt your content as needed. Get different perspectives on your content before you put it out. Make sure that your message isn't tone deaf. I think kind of both of us are known for at the Richards Group, we're always looking at content and campaigns with the lens of what is the worst thing that could happen. And, really, I like to say a lot, you can take a puppy and put it next to a water bottle and someone is gonna hate puppies and probably someone's gonna hate water. You're never going to you're never going to win everybody over. There's just gonna be some people that don't like your content or want to be negative on social media, and I think you've got to be okay and comfortable with that. And like we talked about when going through kind of your persona and your voice guidelines, like keep that in mind of how you might address that, but be really agile and flexible with crafting your message, shifting text overlays for whatever is happening in the landscape.
I think this is especially great, like Caitlin said, with that content plan. None of those had on this specific date you need to do this thing. They're all ranges. So no one says on this date you have to do this thing or you have to post this thing here or there. It's up to you, and you can change it. With social media, you can be flexible and shift things around, even on a day-by-day basis. Then the next takeaway we wanted to share is use this year as a stepping stone for shifting in-person events to digital tactics. As we have seen, the world is changing, and there's a good chance this year, and who knows what the future might look like, but digital is becoming increasingly more important for us to replace or complement those in-person events. And what we said before is that just because you're not in person, it doesn't mean you lose that energy and the fun and the engagement you can have. You can do all of that online. Social media, the basis of it is social. It's conversations. It's having fun. So think about how you integrate digital into today's, but also future events to align with consumer indications and trends. And then our last takeaway is build a content plan for the entire span before, during, and after North Texas Giving Day. In our minds, being successful isn't just building up to that hype and celebrating on September 17th. It's taking it and extending it beyond that, carrying your ownable brand moment forward to continue to engage with donors and potential donors. And to do that, like we said, really consider a mix of content, themes, and formats to create that engaging narrative. And think about how all those different pieces come together to tell your story holistically.
And make sure you're leveraging fewer, bigger, better when you're doing this content plan. You don't need a ton of assets. Think quality over quantity. And if you can, put paid behind your content to ensure that you're reaching new people and new donors to get involved with your organization. So that is the show. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will be answering questions if you want to comment down below. Throughout the week, Elizabeth and I will jump on as moderators and try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. We're really excited for this year. Both of us definitely recognize that this year is going to be a challenge, but I feel like if there is any state or region that can take on this challenge and do it bigger and better than before, it's definitely Texas, and it's definitely North Texas.
Thank you so much, Caitlin and Elizabeth. And we hope that you enjoyed this training. And we are 72 days away from North Texas Giving Day. We have plenty more trainings coming up. We hope that you will watch them and learn from them and execute some awesome social media campaigns. And we cannot wait to see what you will do and accomplish on North Texas Giving Day.